let's start right there in the game that's upcoming on Wednesday. It's France and Morocco. We kind of documented how much of an underdog Morocco was to get to this point. It's incredible. They were plus 446 to beat Belgium in Group F. Check. Plus 124 to come away with over 3.5 points in this group. Check. Plus 905 to win Group F. Plus 170 to qualify for the knockouts. Plus 950 to reach the quarterfinals. Now, to win the tournament, Morocco plus 1020 pre-tournament. There were plus 32,500 to go on and win the World Cup. To reach the semi-final pre-tournament, plus 3,003. And Morocco to reach the final pre-tournament was plus 9,602. Now it's just plus 359. They're going to look to keep this fairy tale story alive. I guess the team right now that some are billing as the favorites to go on and win the World Cup. France are now minus 403 to make the final, and to go in the win the World Cup, they're listed at plus 117 on Pinnacle as well. It's funny, you may project this game. Is this the time where Morocco's luck runs out? Mazraoui's been banged up. Hakimi's not fully fit. They've lost both of their center backs, Agard and Roman Saiz, through injury as well. Yet they simply do not concede goals. They've actually only conceded one goal at this World Cup, but they've only conceded one goal under this new manager as well. France with Mbappe, Griezmann, Giroud, Dembele. I mean, that's as impressive as the front four as you have in this tournament. So how do you handicap this game, Jake? Understanding the history of this tournament, much more cagey, tight affairs come the semifinal as well. A team that doesn't concede goals, but maybe riding their luck to a certain degree, now taking on perhaps the prohibitive favorite to go on and win the World Cup. How do you handicap this game?
Well, with great difficulty. There's so many different variables to consider. We know that France have got the pedigree in these international tournaments, having won the 2018 World Cup, but they showed at the Euros that there's still some naivety in there. They 3-1 up against Switzerland and throw that away to go out on penalties. As Andrew's rightly highlighted, the underlying metrics around France have slowly deteriorated game on game ever since they hammered Australia. I think it was nearly 4.6 expected goals against Australia, 2.95 against Denmark, less than 1 against Tunisia, against a really poor Poland side, 1.25, and against England, just 1.4. So, the attacking numbers have really declined, and they've actually lost the XG battle in both knockout matches. Granted, they've conceded 3 penalties, but even that is a really interesting stat just in itself. I think against England, they showed their rashness defensively, particularly Theo Hernandez, who generally is more of a left wing back. He's much more of a left forward when he plays for AC Milan. He gets up the pitch high, doesn't really do much defending. So England put him under a lot of pressure. Upamecano was really rash as well, and could maybe be a real sort of issue problem for France up against En-Nesyri, who's a really physical striker, similar to Kane, who's happy to receive the ball to feet. I think there's enough negatives around this France team for me to think that Morocco can do something remarkably special. As we've said, they've conceded very few chances, Morocco, in this tournament against good teams. And I think what impressed me most about the Portugal victory is the fact that they did so without some of their best players. You mentioned there, Aguerd, the West Ham centre half, was out. The left back Mazraoui was out. Roman Saiz went off at 60 minutes or something like that. But they still looked as resolute, even with those players coming in. And that's just purely because of the system that they play, the trust and the belief they have in their manager. They have quality in forward areas. And I think that's the key battle in this match is just going to be down Morocco's right, France's left, because Morocco's right is a real strength in terms of defensively and attack. You've got Hakimi and Ziyech, and France, they're all their attacks, well, most of them coming down the left hand side with Hernandez and Mbappe. And we saw England try and isolate that left hand side and really cause problems because they thought it was a weak point as well as a strong point. And I can see Morocco doing the same thing. So whoever wins that battle down that flank will have a really, really good chance of qualifying. So I think at the prices, you've got to take Morocco. I think that France are too short at minus 400 to qualify. Morocco plus 357 implies a 22% chance of qualifying. The Infocom model, doing all the simulations, actually makes Morocco a 29% favourite. Sorry, not favourite, a 29% chance of qualifying. So this should be closer to plus 245 on the money line. So from a pure value perspective, taking Morocco to cause another upset screams value. And yeah, it's difficult because, you've got France playing Morocco. Morocco have never been here before. France have, they've won the last World Cup, and they've got the direct players that can cause problems. But you have to respect this Moroccan team.
Simon?
Yeah, I've been really impressed by Morocco. I think the unity, the collective spirit has been so important. And I think that, for me, gives me a little bit of hope in terms of their chances, because they haven't relied on exceptional individuals defensively. Now, there's been some stars at the back, but I think what we've seen is even the more attack-focused players, the like of Ziyech and the like of guys you wouldn't expect to put in a great defensive shift, have been getting back, have been covering. They've been really good in the transition. So I think the collective spirit, the defensive quality as a group is there. Obviously, the individual is going to be missed as well. For me, my sense with this one is if they can get an early goal, or they can take it to 50 minutes, 60 minutes, then we're going to see some heroics. We're going to see that passion carry them through. But I think they're a bit exhausted and they're very emotional. And that's going to be great if it goes well. But I think if France score early, it could get a little bit ugly. It could be a challenging one. So that's kind of my feelings for this one. I've been really, really impressed with Morocco. And I think that they're going to do everything while they're in the game. But if France get a goal, if Mbappe is looking on form, if he's finding space, then it could be a step too far and we could see them really suffer a bit. So I think it's going to go one of the two ways, really. A very, very tight game and potential Morocco in the World Cup final, or a step too far and a difficult one.
Mbappe could be that player, Andrew, like even against England, a game where he didn't really create any chances. Every time he was on the ball, he just seems so dangerous and he draws so much attention. Now he goes up against his PSG teammate in Hakimi down that left-hand side, right-hand side for Morocco as well. Does that matchup come into play for you, the way that you look at this game overall?
Yeah, I mean, it has to. Mbappe is so good that he always sort of draws the attention. Obviously, he had a quiet game against England. I think it was one shot and one chance created. He wasn't sort of too involved in their attacking output in that game. I think clearly, the sort of Griezmann-Giroud combination we saw in the England game is perhaps going to pay off for France in this one, because some of the big chances Portugal had were from crosses and they didn't convert them. But you think, well, if someone like Griezmann can get a good crossover to Giroud, I think there's a lot bigger chance that he will take that opportunity. I mean, in terms of the game itself and sort of bets and things like that, something I've noticed looking back at the history of World Cup semi-finals, they've been in since 1982. The World Cups in the 74, 78 didn't have a semi-final, but since 1982 there's been a semi-final, and only 4 of the 20 teams have seen. 4 of the 20 ties have seen at least 3 goals. And in the last 10, only 3 of them have seen both teams score. So it seems that the high stakes and everything that's involved means that you don't get many goals and you don't get both teams scoring very often. So no to both teams to score and under 2.5 goals is available at plus 104. That looks like a good bet to me, because I think if Morocco score, then obviously they'll be playing for a 1-0. And I think if France score, it's going to be very difficult for Morocco to then get back into it. So a no and under 2.5 bet makes sense to me, because I think whoever scores may well be able to see it out. It's just a question of who obviously gets that goal.
It's actually crazy when you look back through those World Cup semifinals, Andrew, like through Italia 90, only 2 games have been decided by more than a goal. One of them came in extra time in 2006, Italy, Germany. The other one, 7-1 in 2014. Who can forget that, in Germany and Brazil? So even when sometimes things look like it's a little bit more of a mismatch on paper, the games are played exceptionally close. Because the closest team that I can attribute what Morocco's doing, and Simon, you've documented it, just about kind of the feel of the home support. Like it's like they're playing home games here. It's South Korea in 2002. And another team who some of their parts maybe were greater than the individual pieces. That's kind of how I look at this Morocco side. So if you're looking at the spread and based upon the history of it all, Morocco at +1, and on the handicap at -104, it jumps off the page to me as well, especially if you think it's going to be a close game. Now, you can look at things on the other side of the equation as well. Perhaps Morocco has run their race. Perhaps this is and will be a lopsided game just based upon the quality that France has in attack. And it's easier to kind of compensate from some of the key losses in the team over a one-game period of time. And let's be honest, Portugal were abysmal. They showed no composure on the ball. I don't know if the Ronaldo stuff was part of, a lack of focus, a lack of vision. I'm not sure how it played out, but Portugal was abysmal on that day, and Morocco's being able to take full advantage. So there's a couple of ways to look at this. Also, we should say that the total for the match is set at 2.25, and the over's at +101, and the under's at -113. I should also mention on Pinnacle, France to win in 90 minutes is -188, +303 for the draw, +663 for Morocco to win in 90. Is there a play that you're making in this game, Jake?
No, I'll probably just have not in the actual match market, but I'll probably just have a small bet on Morocco to qualify at +357. I think that's a big number. I think they've shown that they're more than capable of keeping things tight, and their game plan generally is to hold out for a 0-0. If they get a chance and score 1-0, great. If not, then we go to extra time and penalties, and it becomes much more. Having a penalty shootout is a much more even way of deciding a football match than over 90 minutes, because yes, there's individual quality to think about, but there's a lot of luck involved, and a lot of if one team goes in front or two in front, then the pressure mounts and the pressure changes, the pressure shifts, etc. And I think they've got a good goalkeeper for penalties as well. Bono has been playing really well, and his shot stopping has been one of the things that's kept them in the tournament. So, I think that chancing them to qualify, I guess you could take the draw in the 90-minute market as well at +303. I think France are just too short. So my main thing is just to oppose France, whether that be with a handicap, whether that be by taking the draw, or by just backing Morocco to qualify.
Morocco obviously has already been in a penalty shootout in this tournament, defeating Spain in the process. We should also mention, Simon, before I ask you if you have a play for this game, France has conceded a goal in every game they played in at this tournament against a team that simply doesn't concede. Does that go into your thought process at all?
Yeah, look, I think it's valid, and as I say, the pressure for Morocco and the pressure for France is different, because if Morocco lose 5-0, they go home heroes. If France lose 1-0, they've messed up their biggest chance to win the World Cup. They've let it slip. How could they lose against Morocco? So while there's obviously pressure, these Moroccan players are heroes. And that will come into the mentality. They're going into this with nothing to lose. They've far exceeded any expectation. So I think the pressure's on France to make something happen. And I think in the transition, we've seen Morocco really, really good. They get numbers forward. They're still not conceding many chances. So there's lots of reasons why you say France win this. But this has been a World Cup full of narratives, and Morocco are really doing well. So I think it's a decent shout in terms of Morocco getting through. It will be difficult to predict perhaps how they do it, whether it's penalties, where it's a goal, one goal, or whether it's whatever, a France defensive meltdown. And we've seen some rash defending from the French. Even in just that England game, we've seen some very physical challenges. The referee looks at that another way. They concede plenty more than they did. So I think it's going to be a fascinating one, and I think there's good enough reason to think Morocco could sneak through somehow in this one. France haven't been perfect. I think Griezmann's been incredible. I think he's been alongside Mbappe the kind of star performer, and the way he presses and he's tireless and all that kind of stuff. I think that's going to be really interesting against a very dynamic Morocco midfield. But yeah, I think that's a decent chance to see Morocco sneak through somehow to a World Cup final, and yeah, it'll be incredible.
But Moroccan supporters are going to love this podcast so far, by the way. Andrew, you've given us one play. Are you going to rain on their parade here at all, or are you just going to continue to back Morocco?
No, yeah, I'm inclined to agree with Jake. Particularly, I think the Morocco to qualify price looks very intriguing, very enticing, I should say. I also like 0-0 at half time, which I've just lost. But 6 of the last 10 World Cup semi-finals have been 0-0 at half-time. And obviously one of the others was the Brazil-Germany, crazy game. You look back at 2002, Brazil against Turkey, Germany, South Korea, sort of broadly similar to ties to what we've got here. They were both 0-0 at half-time and settled in the second half. So that is another one that probably stands out to me a little bit. That might be worth a look.
Interesting. We should also mention no repeat winners in the World Cup since 1962. Brazil went back-to-back, and we still do have a chance for the exact same final to play out in back-to-back World Cups. That hasn't happened since 86-90 in Argentina and West Germany. Any final thoughts? Go around the horn, put up your hand if you... No, we're good. So looks like there's a lot of Moroccan backing on this podcast. We'll see how it all plays out, whether this fairy tale story can continue.